Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well, and welcome to this early morning, middle of the night bonus upload. Before we jump on into it, a couple quick links. As many of you may know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. These audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads that I put out daily, click the bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment and share the video. Why? Well, because these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go. They definitely do matter, and they are appreciated. And with that, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump in to this early morning, middle of the night bonus upload, shall we? Tonight's first encounter. Some background. Our buddy Frank comes and watches our band play all the time, and we're pretty good friends. He often shares experiences about Vietnam and his hunting trips. I trust him completely. There is no telling what else he knows about but won't talk about for various reasons. What follows is a letter he had written. Here goes. This fall, my ex-partners went back to Kamchatka. I didn't go this time. I was tied up, and not by a woman, unfortunately. I'll try and make this short. Jay, my main partner and owner of the firm now, had shot a huge old boar-brown bear. It was not quite as tall or long as my biggest Alaskan brown. Mine was 10'4", at 9 feet 10 inches, but was immensely blocky, heavy, and muscular. Pictures taken right before the shot, as it looked like an M1A1 Abrams tank with dark brown fur, obviously the king of the valley. They had tracked it on and off for 4 days and had come across an interesting sight. An area near the creek choked with strawberry bushes that looked like it was a scene of an epic battle. It was rocky and gravelly, so not much in the way of tracks, but it looked like two bulldozers had gone at each other. Saplings up to 4 inches in diameter snapped like soda straws, bushes ripped up, scattered fur, etc. They presumed the boss had laid down the law about territory ownership to another bear. They were hot on its tracks and had to keep going. As they did, Jay saw something curious. It was a large tree branch, 4.5 to 5 feet long and about 5 to 6 inches in diameter at the big end, 4 or so at the smaller end. It obviously had been torn off a nearby tree. Jay said it looked at it twice as they moved through the area because the big end had blood and fur on it, and they just assumed at the time one of the bears had slammed into it while fighting. The next day when they caught up with the bear, he was bedded in some deep thicket, and they circled and got into position at the edge of a small clearing just as the bear came out. He was moving very slowly and stiffly up the mountain. Jay got him with 2 shots from his .416 Wrigley. Nothing dramatic, but Jay is a real hunter and insists on helping with the skinning. That's when they got an additional surprise. The bear was really beaten up, not fatally, but he was one sore battered bear and had some very unusual wounds from a bear fight. When they rolled him over to skin him, there were large areas on his chest and stomach where the fur had been pulled out and claw marks. Jay said it looked like something had jumped on its back and had its arms around him holding on while it bit. They thought at first a Siberian tiger. That'd be one heck of a fight, a 1,400-pound bear and a 750-pound cat. But the marks were wrong. A tiger wouldn't pull fur out. It cannot clench its paws into fists, and the claw marks were wide and shallow. They were spread wide apart between the fingers. If you hold your hand out and spread your fingers, they spread pretty far apart. Another bears do not. Big brown bears, such as mine, have claws up to 4 to 5 inches long, but there are only 4 on the front paw. The 5th is a dew claw up where the wrist joint is. There were 5 of these, one in opposable thumb position. Opposable thumb, Frank underlined in pen. In other words, marks that appeared to have come from a very large pair of hands. What was just as weird was when the huge hide was off of its neck. There were several large bite marks on the bear's neck and shoulders. The curious thing is they were not as deep as you would expect from a bear. The teeth marks were more rounded or molar-like, but most strangely, the whole bite mark was very horseshoe-shaped, whereas a bear's bite mark is much longer and narrower. Well, the long and short of it is one of the local guides gave the following account of what had happened. The other guides agreed and looked at the sign fairly close at the site before moving on. The boss bear had come up the creek into the wind and surprised a female, they used their word for Bigfoot, in his berry patch and attacked. The big male Bigfoot jumped on him from cover where he had been feeding. The guides say the big males are 9 feet tall and 750 to 800 pounds and immensely strong. Anyway, the fight was on, horrific but brief. The female did not join in but fled with her youngster. As soon as the female was safely out of danger, the male followed. He had inflicted some pretty severe bites to the bear, but the massively strong bear had gotten him off his back. The bear, they say, had inflicted a severe bite to probably the male's thigh, and severely nasty off-balance paw swats. If his feet had been under him to provide power and leverage, the male Bigfoot would have been crushed. The local guides say such encounters are rare but do happen when they surprise each other. True, who knows? But my buddy of 40 years has hunted all over the world and taken several other bear. He has skinned hundreds of animals, and Jay said these wound marks sure did not look like they came from another bear. The one other weird thing was that Jay said the bear really stunk, especially on its back. Now, a bear in the wild, damp, soggy, and muddy, does not smell like lilacs in the spring, or a freshly showered and powdered woman. Having carried quite a few bear out, I can best describe them as a musty old throw rug that's been lying on an earthen basement damp floor all winter, Jay agreed, but said this was different. He said the bear's back smelled foul, like whatever was clinging there had smelled bad, possibly even urinating on the bear during the fight. He likened it to the cross between a week-old napalmed water buffalo I had hid behind a Nam for 3 days and the wolverine scent they had smelled in Alaska. Anyway, that's a story, no proof of any kind, but lots of interesting oddities. Jay asked about tracking the family, but the guide said there was not enough money in the world to get them and do something so foolish as to track a mad, wounded, protective Bigfoot. Besides, they said, late in the fall, they always went back from the coast to several super nasty hellhole little canyons where they have a lot of natural hot springs, and they winter there. An interesting footnote, Jay called today and told me the following. He had called over there to check the status of some large salmon they had caught and left to be mounted. Outfitters told him that after they had left, season was over, and one of the guides rode the older Kawasaki snowmobile back to the area to bring out some personal and camp items left. He parked the snowmobile on the ridge above the fight scene after picking up the things he had come for. He decided to go down to the little river and catch a few salmon. There was not much snow on the ridge, mostly ice, but much below. And he snowshoed down about a half a mile and fished for about an hour, caught 4 salmon and climbed back out to discover his snow machine was gone. It had been picked up and shoved down the other side of the ridge. It weighed almost 500 pounds. Fortunately for him, as he was 20 miles back in, it hung up in a brush only about 20 feet down the ridge side. After some struggle, fueled by great desire to get out of there, he got it back on track, got it started, and got out of there, with only a mashed windshield and cracked hood. That's a subtle way of saying, get out of here and leave us alone for the winter. Tonight's second encounter. Years later, I still can't explain what I saw 7 years ago, southeastern Wisconsin. So far, I've only told a few people close to me about this experience. It took place in southeastern Wisconsin roughly 7 years ago. I went with a girl I was seeing to a nature center about 20 minutes from my house. I was 19 at the time. She was a year younger. It was about 10 p.m. when we arrived. We brought a blanket with us and made our way up the main hill that overlooks the city of Waukesha from a very long distance. Up on this hill, through some pretty heavy woods, there's an area right at the top of the hill that has a wooden bench with no backrest. It was just us two, as we were the only car in the parking area. I've been on the other side down the steep hill once before, so I had a good idea on where we were going to lie out the blanket. We set up about 25 yards down the hill, away from the top bench area. Mind you, aside from the old wooden bench, it's nothing but woods and tall grass fields. We lied there for a good 45 minutes looking at the sky. I knew from being here in the past that if somebody else comes and they were at the top of the hill, it's impossible to see them from the area we were at, but you can easily hear them. At around the 45-minute mark, something caught my attention. It sounded like somebody was up on top of the hill, rustling the leaves and dirt around. I didn't want to startle her, but she realized I was paying attention to whoever was up on the hill. The moon was fairly bright that night, so I had a decent view toward the top, but, as I said, it's almost impossible to see a person up there. And if you do, it's only the very top of their head. At this moment, I started to hear a huffing, puffing, light growlish noise. I thought that's pretty odd and crouched down a bit. Still, my eyes locked up top, I assured her through whispers to just stay still and lie down. We really didn't feel like getting noticed by anyone up there. Here's where it takes a very odd turn. As I'm hearing these noises, seeing nothing up top, a figure appears smack dab on the exact point of where the bench is located. The noises continue, so here I am, mind racing, trying to keep calm and make sense of what is going on. I decide it's just some guy standing on the bench acting like a weirdo, but the more I watch, this was clearly not a person. I was able to make out a very thick, dark figure from where the belly button would be on a human all the way up. Actually, I'd say about 5 inches up from the belly button area. I watched on as the figure's head went side to side like a madman, huffing and puffing, basically completely spazzing out. The head of this creature was much, much larger than any man I'd ever seen. It was evident through the moonlight I had that this thing was one solid dark, but not completely dark-colored. I am in complete disbelief, still fighting to play it cool, as the girl I'm with is behind me trying to stay as flat and still as possible, and facing the opposite direction. The creature stayed in one spot, never pacing yet head-snapping side to side, almost studying the hill and land around it. I'm assuming this thing must be standing atop this bench, making it appear very tall. No, dead wrong. For whatever reason, this creature snaps its head to the right one last time and takes off with an acceleration that scared the living crap out of me. It did not jump off that bench. I witnessed this thing run on an angle down the side of the hill for about 30 to 40 yards upright at the speed that no human is capable of. I sat there, jaw dropped, as it vanished into the woods. I instantly turned around, snatched the blanket while pulling her up, and said, "We need to go now." I didn't even care that this thing could possibly be lurking in the woods. I didn't want to even have a chance of staying out on that hill for another second. We finally are about 100 yards from the car. No, I did not run into this thing, but the both of us heard the most horrifying screech back maybe 100 to 200 yards. It lasted for 10 to 15 seconds. A noise I can say I've never even come close to hearing before. She was beyond terrified, grabbing me as we stood completely still. The final 100 yards we jogged, trying to make as little noise as possible. I'm trying to remember if there's anything else, but I will have to add it if I do. This thing had to be over 8 feet tall and at least 300 plus pounds, no clothes, one solid color. Made animal type, pissed off I'd say, sounds, running on its hind legs. The part to this day that freaks me out the most is the speed at which this creature ran. It was not normal. Last thing I'll add is that this area is located 30 minutes from the Bray Road beast sightings. I haven't been back to the area since that night, close, but I'm never going back in the woods. Another reason the running part freaked me out the most was because for the speed at which the creature was running, it stayed almost abnormally upright, as in, say you're watching a track and field event, the runner's arms swing forward and backwards constantly as they run, their shoulders cut inward with each swing of their arm. This thing did not display a normal type run. It almost seemed to use its legs entirely, while keeping its arms quite tight to itself, with its elbows bent in the form of an L. There was some arm movement, but nowhere near that of what a human would do when they ran. And for as fast as it was going, I had this feeling that it was capable of going even faster. As soon as it started to run, the huffing, puffing, growling noises stopped, or I was just unable to hear them. Some 3 to 4 years after this all took place, my buddy started dating a girl that we went to high school with. I'd never talked to her in school. One night, on our way to a baseball game, she proceeds to tell us a story of a sighting her and her brother had years before on the glacial Drumlin bike trail. I never told her about what I had seen, yet I asked her when we got to the game if she could draw what she saw. So she took a pen out of her purse, and I gave her a piece of paper from the glove compartment. I was absolutely shocked because she basically drew the exact thing that I had witnessed. When I say exact, I mean scary exact. Through getting to know her, her mom told us on a later occasion about how scared she and her brother were that day when they got home. The part that also freaked her out is that when the creature saw them, it took a massive jump and took off at a high speed into the woods. The trail is located about 20 minutes away from the nature center where my sighting took place. And to this day, neither of us have seen anything like it, besides the time where I believed to have seen wolves cross the road on all fours. Also possible to see a wolf down here, but rare. Tonight's final encounter. Some backstory. My dad is a retired park ranger, if that's what you call it. He worked for the National Park Service up until 3 years ago. His usual tasks involved taking people on tours along the Appalachian Trail, maintaining the forestry and the wildlife habitats. So anyway, this experience goes back to the summer of 2003 when my dad and a colleague, we'll call him John, were sent out and tried to locate an adult elk. The male, named Billy by the locals, who was usually very tame and was often found close to houses, but had not been seen for over a week. This apparently was very unusual for him. So my dad was dropped off along the trail while John took the truck and drove further down, about 5 miles, in order and try to locate Billy. They had been searching all day for him, and this is the last stop for the day, as there was only a few hours of daylight left. So, as the story goes, my dad had been walking along the trail for a little over an hour when he heard a disturbance in the distance to his left. He could hear the snapping of tree branches. So he decided to follow where the noises were coming from in hopes that it could be Billy the elk. As he got closer, he said he began to smell a foul odor and instinctively knew that it was some sort of dead animal. He was right. Lying on the ground in a small opening of trees was the carcass of a large elk. He could see by the tag on one of its ears that it was Billy. However, he was immediately shocked by the condition this creature was in. Billy had been severely mutilated. His eyes and tongue had been gouged out, throat torn out, his stomach ripped open, so that the intestines were protruding on the ground. He also noticed that little chunks of flesh had been bitten from the torso, and the entire front leg was missing. He reasoned that the animal had been attacked by either a black bear or a coyote, as nothing else would tackle a full-grown adult elk. However, this seems strange because elk are usually too big for even an apex predator to take down, but he thought that maybe a hungry pack of coyotes may, if they're starving. What disturbed him further was the way in which the animal had been mutilated after death. My dad made it a point of saying that he had never witnessed anything like it, and that was very unusual for predators to mutilate a corpse in such a way. Feeling unnerved by this discovery, my dad radioed John and told him that he located the animal before giving him his approx location. John had told him that he had wandered off the beaten track and that it would take him around an hour to get back to where the truck was parked and drive to his locale. So my dad was told to wait where he was until John got him. It was almost dark at this point, and my dad remembered being very unsettled. He had a flashlight with him and some bear spray, but noted that he still felt vulnerable alone in the forest. After around 15 minutes or so, he had heard the same noises as he had heard earlier, much closer now as he was off the trail. He would hear footsteps and the occasional growl of something hidden within the thick brush straight ahead of him. He said that every so often he could hear slow, heavy breathing and snapping of branches as whatever was pacing the forest floor. He began to get the feeling that he was being watched and worried that coyotes or perhaps a bear was now stalking him. He said that every so often he would wave his flashlight in the direction of the disturbance and yell in order to try and scare off whatever was out there watching him. However, the noises still persisted, and this seemed to aggravate the creature. Luckily, the animal never came any closer or revealed itself to him, simply pacing around in the darkness with an occasional growl. Just over an hour later, the truck pulled up along the trail, and my dad could see to his relief that John was now following the flashlight to where my dad stood. The arrival of another person must have spooked the harasser, as he noticed hearing the crunching of leaves, now moving quickly away from him. He told him what had happened, and the man, it may have been a bear, and that they probably should not hang around. Together, they wrapped the corpse in a cloth and managed to haul it to the back of the truck. My dad said that just as they were getting ready to leave, curiosity came over him, and he decided to walk over to where the sounds had been coming from only moments before. John got out as well, and the two of them scoured the area. Behind a fallen log, they found a half-chewed leg of this dead elk, along with a number of discarded candy and chocolate bar wrappers, and a small length of rope. They agreed never to mention this experience to anyone. My dad has told me that not a day goes by that he doesn't think about what he saw and heard that day. We relocated from that area in 2005 and now reside near Richmond, Virginia. My dad hasn't been back since and said he will never walk the Appalachian Trail again. I can't blame him, to be honest. Anyway, that's my dad's experience. Thanks for listening. And there you have it, folks. I hope you all enjoyed this early morning, middle of the night bonus as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. I'd like to thank you for supporting the channel. It is your support that helps the channel to continue to grow and go, and what gives us all a place and a chance to share our experiences and theories judgment-free. Everyone is simply treated with the respect that we deserve. Please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and our friends. These creatures are real. These events have happened. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless you all.